Yes. Hey, security peeps. It's Renee Small here with my fabulous co-host, Chris Foulon. Chris, say hi to the folks.
Hey, everyone.
And our amazing special guest today, Greg Vandergast, that he is calling himself I'm Just Greg.
Just Greg.
And Greg has been in the industry much longer than 5 years, but he is here as one of our special edition guests because he has so much information to pass on to you folks who are trying to break into the industry. And Greg, to get us started, I just want to have you share with everyone pretty much what made you interested in cyber, how you got here, and then we'll start our conversation around what folks need to do to what you think they need to do or where you see the lack in breaking into the industry.
Right. I think my starting point was actually the movie Hackers. I think that's actually right.
That's kind of fun.
And then I was like, I think I downloaded Linux at some point, and it was only about 6 months later until the feds arrived.
So, goodness. So you just jumped right.
It's a very streamlined way of getting into it if you don't mind enclosed spaces and group showers. I'm sure there's other ways of doing it as well.
Boy, times have changed.
Yes.
Yeah, just a bit. It's that whole 9/11 thing. It's like all of a sudden terrorism, prison.
Correct.
Yeah, after that, just a bunch of like consulting work and then kind of working myself up the ladder, but very randomly, I must say. I've even had like multi-year pauses from this industry because I was just fed up with it. Probably not what people want to hear, because there's a lot wrong with it as well. But now I'm back. I've picked up a lot of stuff along the way, and I've changed tremendously. There's just much better ways of doing it. It can be really, really rewarding. Yeah.
And maybe that's one of the reasons that the industry is the way it is because of some of those stressors, some of those things that are wrong. So let's work to create good behaviors and competencies for those coming into the industry.
Yeah.
So what are... Go ahead, sorry.
No, I absolutely agree. And I often feel like I can't really tell people how to get in because I think the whole market is very strange. But I try to, well, let me just go back on that in a second. But I do try to tell people, like, once you're in, keep these things in mind because this will make you stand out and this will allow you to progress. And you can, and it depends what you want to do. If you want to be like a pure tech geek, you can do that and just be the best of the best in that really, really narrow area. Or you can grow into more of a leadership role. The title of this talk of breaking into cybersecurity, there's a lot of talks and conferences about just that, and it just seems, just the title seems ridiculous. I mean, we supposedly have this massive skill gaps of millions of people, and everyone's freaking out, and yet you go talk to like young people who are quite passionate about it and really want to get and do that work, and no one will hire them. It's ridiculous. I thought you were missing all these people.
Exactly.
I don't believe there's a skills gap in terms of number of bodies. People are so mismanaged, just treated like drones, really like not even performing like to 1/10 of their potential. Really poor leadership, and the kind of whole approach to security now is so reactive. It's all about detection and response. So you need like 100 SOC analysts because you didn't take an hour to patch your server, and it's flying alerts at a rate of 1 million an hour. So there's way more effective ways of doing it, but the fact is we're not. So there is a lot of demand. It's just somehow breaking through that. Everyone's kind of lazy and doesn't want to train and mentor people, so they just want people with 5 years of experience, even though time is not a unit of experience. Because most people, like, they get hired, it's like, oh, you're the junior guy, so you're just going to sit there and do spreadsheets and stuff. Well, you've not really grown in 5 years. Whereas you can take someone off the street and really throw them in the deep end, and within 2 months, they've learned more than another person has in 5 years. So time is completely relevant. I just hired a 21-year-old with 2 months of work experience total, none in cyber, to handle our entire Office 365 estate with 129,000 accounts and Defender ATP and all the consoles and all that stuff. Today I was like, I'm going to have to move my desk so I can sit next to him, because I'm just going to throw him in the deep end. And if he starts sinking, I'll catch him. And
Nice.
he'll get the speed up and running in a month. I have absolutely no doubt about it. And it's really cheap to do it that way as well. He's happy to work for a third of the salary that you'd have to pay for this role otherwise. And he's way more eager. So I know within a month, his productivity is going to be higher than someone I would have paid 3 times as much for.
And why do you think other industry leaders aren't taking that tactic?
I don't know. I think we're really indoctrinated, and we're drinking a lot of our own Kool-Aid, to be honest. I think we've become a whole industry of people that know everything but don't think at all. Almost everything is best practice. Everything is how you do it. I think there's a lot of blame culture going on. Everything's the user's fault, and the board won't give us this. And it's like, well, ask yourself why that is. There's always. I have this personal rule, which I call like the frustration rule. If I'm getting frustrated doing something, it's because I'm doing something wrong. It's up to me. So I either need to park whatever I'm doing and figure out what's actually causing the friction, and by resolving that first. Not only do I not have the friction on whatever I was working on, but there's probably 20 other things I need to do later on that I won't have the friction in any of those anymore either. And sometimes the thing that's causing the friction is actually yourself. So you got to kind of park the ego on the side. I've been doing this for 22 years, and I tell people, if I go back 10 years, I was an absolute prat. I was that elitist. I know everything. I'm a badass rock star syndrome, all of that. I think it comes from having kids and wanting to really impart the important things on them. They started kind of putting that towards other people and reflecting on myself as well. I just think there's so much. I have the benefit of not having any formal education. I've always just kind of looked at what works and figured it out myself, and I've never been told this works. In fact, when all the kind of compliance frameworks came out, I felt really stupid because I don't understand how this is supposed to help. It doesn't relate to the actual technical reality on the ground. It doesn't relate to my specific business. It's so generic. It could be anything. Security is all about these tiny details and how they interact. And here's something that's 30,000 feet in another country. And it just never made sense to me. And no, this is the business I had in front of me. Let me think through what we need to do and secure it that way. And I've worked. I was telling this the other day. I've worked in 6 ISO 27001 certified organizations. 2 of them I was actually one to achieve the certification. I have no idea what's in that standard. I've never just went through the business, securing things as following the business processes, the data flows they use, the systems they use. How can we secure all of this? And then the auditor comes and yeah, you're doing that. Oh yeah. Here you go. I did my ISO certification in 2 weeks.
Wow.
After 2 years of effort putting in a program,
right,
based around the business, and if it's aligned with the business process, the security actually gets followed. It's not like 11 months of whatever, and then oh crap, the auditor's coming next month. Quick update documents that make it look like we've done stuff and strike some stuff off the risk register. That's complete bullshit. Sorry.
Yeah.
PG-13.
Not really. It's grown up in the room, so we can do our thing here.
Yeah.
But you make such.
I want to go back to how I did the exact same talk in person a couple of weeks ago, and I just went off on a rant, and I ended up not helping the people wanting to get into things. So I wrote an article in the morning, like, "Sorry guys, I should have said these things."
No, it's so frustrating. I feel your pain because Chris and I, the reason how we ended up starting this is because we were both getting bombarded by people begging to get in the industry, which again, I'm thinking is ridiculous because I was completely shocked. I'm getting these emails, I'm getting these pings on LinkedIn, all of these young, like you said, young people with master's degrees in cybersecurity and what have you, and they're telling me that they can't break in, they can't get a job. I'm like, what do you mean? There's all these 2-3 million jobs that are open, and they need people, the industry needs people. And so coming from a recruiting perspective, typically an organization isn't going to bring me in to hire some entry-level person. Like I thought those entry-level people were just getting funneled in. And then as I pull back the curtain, I'm just like flabbergasted, just like you. Then on the other end of the spectrum, I'm talking to more CISOs and more CIOs, and learning, as we talked about a few minutes ago before the recording started, is that, some of the struggles are, they don't have the budget, they don't want this, the turnover is so fast. So if a CISO is turning over in 18 months, they can't even think about bringing in somebody in to train them up because they won't even be there a couple months later. So
I think, like, once you reach that CISO level, like, it's on you. It's really on you. Like, it's for you to have the communication skills, the strategy, the technical understanding. I mean, that's just completely on you. I mean, the role I have now, when they were hiring, was just for like a run-of-the-mill information security manager. And I went into the interview, I was like, no, you guys need a full-on program. This is what you guys need to do, this. And, they hired me in 10 days, and 2 months later, I'm having board meetings and one-on-ones with the CEO. And if you communicate and you have a clear strategy and they trust you, and you make it relatable to them, it's not that difficult. And you just don't sweat the small stuff. Prioritize. I've got laughable resources, like laughable. I mean, I'm talking to people who've got like 100 times the resource I have for like a similar size estate. And not 100, but at least tenfold. You just prioritize, and then, okay, a lot of this stuff I'm not even going to deal with. We're going to do the extremely critical stuff. Anything that's not worse than what we have now, that's fine. That can go in. We're going to focus on what's coming in the pipeline, because this is a 3 to 5 year program. By then, all this crap will be end of life and just drop off the table. And we'll have focused here with minimal resources, but just to make sure that everything new is good. And it'll just kind of replace everything. Instead of firefighting everything, just concentrate on what's coming out of the production line is fireproof. And you just have to, based on the resource you have, you just have to create your own priorities and your own approach. Every single company, business is different, which is why I really hate best practices, because it cannot possibly be the best approach for you in your specific situation. But yeah, I just really think that CISOs need to own that stuff.
So how would you want to train those coming into the industry to start thinking strategically like that from their first role, so that they can have those skills and competencies by the time they get to that level?
Well, I simply just involve them in everything. I mean, there's no reason. First of all, I choose candidates on affinity. I was saying, we've got this. He's going to handle our entire 365 estate from a security perspective, and he's got some Windows skills and this and that, but he actually has absolutely zero 365 experience. He's a bright kid, 21 years old, and I know I can drop like 5 Azure books on him, and he'll read them in 2 weeks, and he'll be good to go. But I will still involve him in everything, make him understand, you are this and this and this piece of the puzzle of this bigger picture. And if I've got any spare capacity at all, it's like, come into this meeting with me. Just maybe shut up, but come into the meeting. And I've got absolutely no problem doing that. And if they see that, because I think most people, when they start out, they manage to get into cyber or any industry, really. We only really know what we know. But then their managers only give them like the menial tasks that their manager knows they can handle without any supervision. I'm like, give them real serious work.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are they'll only need your help 10% of the time, and maybe 20% of the time at the beginning. It's going to get less and less and less, and then they're actually doing real serious heavy lifting for you. Why? And they're growing in the process, so it's fantastic. And within, I've no doubt that within 3 years I could train someone up to be probably better than most CISOs out there. Really senior thought-wise, because it takes you years to figure things out and to realize stuff. It takes you a lot less time to pass that on. Filter out all the garbage. I've done a lot of garbage, but I'm trying to do good stuff.
Do you think?
I just think it's human potential is so untapped. Nobody asks why. Nobody's addressing root causes. Fortunes on tooling and staffing. There's so little stakeholder engagement. Go talk to everyone in your business. I'm very strategic about communication, in the sense that I'm just really, really nice to everyone. And I do not ask ever something from anyone if I don't know them, if I've not done something for them, if I have not bought them a cup of coffee, if I don't have a relationship with them, I do not ask anything of them. Always establish the relationship first. This will pay back in effort 1,000-fold. You cannot even believe to begin how important that is. And people just want to collaborate with you, because most security people hide in their security department, and then they come out when they're needed and act like the Gestapo. And there's no emotional investment on the parts of people in security. Like I introduced myself as a security person when I first started in places, and people, like literally 1 in 2 people, they actually recoil when they see that's how bad our reputation is. That's how bossy we are and arrogant. And you ever see like a few security people in a conference room, and it's just the security people, and they're just talking crap about management and the board and the users and how dumb they are. And what's with that negative mentality? I mean, you don't know how to set up a web server and a SAP estate and this and that. That's their job. Security is not their job. You know, they're being chased by their boss to deliver like 50 different things. Security is number 47 on the list. They're not going to get to it. They're doing all kinds of other stuff. Appreciate that they're doing all of that. Your job is security. If they did that, you wouldn't have a job. So be happy with that.
Do you think there are any companies for the people who are trying to break in? You know, any industry, since you've been in the game for over 20 years, are there any types of either industries, companies, sizes of companies that you think are good places where a young person like the person that you just hired should, you know, point themselves to?
I don't know that there's any specific industries. I think, unfortunately, it depends hugely on who your boss is, and their direct manager will make such of it. You can be in a terrible company. You're better off working in a terrible company for a good boss than for a bad boss in a great company.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to make the difference. I do want to say there are more and more companies, like I know like Raytheon and BAE Systems and stuff. A lot of them have like apprenticeship programs and stuff. Because a lot of these very big industrial, they've got big SOCs. They're always looking for talent. I know like the BBC or the UK, they're quite good with their placement years and their security interns. Those are probably good places to go looking. Get yourself in there. If you're still in university, get involved with university. Universities are always understaffed. Go talk to them. Do some forensics work. Do some help them with physical audits. Just walk around. Just the odd, a project where you red team something. Just get anything. Do anything to help to get it on your resume while you're still in university. That'll help you once you get out.
I was about to ask you what's your take on apprenticeship programs, because they use it in many other industries, but it seems like IT in general, much less security, is one of those fields that don't even consider it.
Why would you say that? Because it's slave labor.
Yeah, I mean, based on my experience, I haven't seen many companies that have. I mean, they'll do internships, but very lightly. But I think an apprenticeship program coordinated with a school that you combine on-the-job learning with a tailored educational program is a great way to build the pipeline. For example, my brother's in the electrical field, and he has to go through a 5-year program to become a journeyman, and it requires I think like 3,000 or 4,000 hours of work plus schooling, and overtime doesn't count, kind of thing. Like regular good old-fashioned work with that schooling in order to get that level of experience that you need to get that certification or that grading.
Right.
To add to Chris's point, I think in the U.S., like I think in Europe, you guys are just so much further ahead. In the U.S., you totally do not see it as much in terms of like in IT.
In terms of internships.
In terms of apprenticeships in technology. Yeah. There's a new relatively new program right now in this current administration with the Department of Labor trying to pump out more apprenticeships in IT, specifically in cybersecurity. Chris and I are in the DC area, so we're seeing it a little bit here, and them partnering with the local community colleges and what have you now. I think, like, for example, one of the ones that we have that's close by is Amazon Web Services. I know is partnering with like Northern Virginia Community College, but it's almost like a brand new thing in the cybersecurity space in the United States. Which, to Chris's point, I think you guys just have it so much more. I think you're just much more advanced than we are.
You say that, but then when we see the salaries they pay in the States, we're all like, damn. Someone like 250K, I'm like, yeah, I want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the U.S. market, but as a general rule, I would say, do everything you can do, not just what you're being paid for. It may be worth it to just work for free, to be honest. For example, I like to hire very junior resources for a number of reasons. It's not purely financial. I find that we're such an indoctrinated industry, and there's so much negativity that if I get like a seasoned, 5 or 10 year experience, it takes me a long time to de-indoctrinate them, to get them back up to their potential, because they've just gotten used to working at this kind of common, lowest common denominator level. Whereas if you get someone young who's still eager, you just tap into that. You make them work at that level, and they stay there.
I think
like once you have like a period of tremendous growth, why would you go back to stagnating? You realize just how big your potential is. That said, I can hire people for less than half what the market rate would be for the position, because they know, hey, I'm just starting out. I'm making 20 grand a year. And whether I do nothing or work my ass off, I'm going to make 20 grand a year. It doesn't matter, because I'm 20 years old. That's what they are paying me. But if I work their ass off, 3 years from now, they're going to be worth 60 grand a year. And they're making the same money now, but they're getting all this experience because they're actually working their butts off. It's a good workload, but it's more about working smarter at a more mature level than just working ridiculous hours and stuff. But they understand that there's that payoff in the end. And I tell them, this is another kind of negative thing about the industry. Like, people are like, yeah, but what about retention? You're training all these people, you're putting all this effort in, and then, how are you going to retain them? I'm like, I'm not. And that's fine. Right. I mean, in 3 years' time, I'm like, I've told them already, I expect you to be gone in 3 years' time, because you're going to be so advanced, so good that it's stupid. I'm going to be able to pay you 25, and you could be making 50, 55, 60 elsewhere because of the level of experience and capability you have now. I'll just find another one, train them up in a month, and to do the basic stuff and keep going. And that means I can actually have quite cheap labor, and it's really satisfying personally to help and mentor these young people, and it saves you a ton of money. I mean, I got budget to hire one person, and I'm hiring 3 people out of it.
Yeah.
And other than that initial investment, which is actually quite enjoyable, because I look at it when I'm 80 years old on my deathbed, I'm not going to be thinking back about how many boxes I configured and hardened. No, I'm going to be thinking about how many people that I developed, that I grow, how many people that I helped and all that. And it's hugely rewarding personally, which is something that's really missing in IT and tech in general. You're just dealing with boxes all the time. It's just not fulfilling. Let's face it, more people in tech are in it. Unless you really love the tech, so many of them are in it just for the paycheck.
Yeah.
Why are you in IT? Oh, because there's lots of jobs that pay well. I love going to work now. I really, really love going to work, which is, you can tell, like, I used to rock into the office at 10 o'clock because I just couldn't be asked to get out of bed. At 5:30, I was in the office 6:45, ready to roll. So I really advise people, like, it doesn't matter if you can live off the salary, as if it provides you the opportunity to do a lot and to build up your your knowledge and your skills and your capabilities and stuff. Do it. Just do it. But there's people that pay money to have 1/3 of as much growth in school. So you're still getting paid here, and you're growing even better. So it's totally. But I think so much of the current issue is also on the side of the hiring managers. I mean, I like to see the potential in people, and there's a pro and a con to that. Actually, the good is, like, I can just grab someone off the street who's eager and put them to work, and I'm fine with that, and I get great results out of that. The problem is I get such good results that I need very, very few of them. So I can only help so many people directly. So I really hope that there's other people out there who do the same thing, because really it's to your own benefit as a head of or a CISO. It's not sustainable, because eventually everyone will try to do it and you won't be able to. But right now, so much of the market is so foobarred that you can be that 1%, and until things even out a bit, you can just really have a massive advantage out of that.
Back to your earlier point of indoctrination within the industry, that's one of the things that Renee and I talk about all the time, is that we need that diversity of thought, not just that experience to come in to look at things with a fresh eye, to come from a different perspective, a salesperson, a marketing person, a librarian, to have that different approach to creatively solving the problems that exist, and not just the same old approach that everyone else knows.
I think that's a really good point, actually. I had a talk about starting out in cyber a couple weeks ago. It was a mixed crowd, maybe about 60 people, and there were maybe half of the 10 that were, like, really new in to the industry. And I kept it very open-ended. I wanted to just have a conversation. And one of the things I noticed is I spoke to all the people trying to get in, like, one-on-one at the end. But during the actual talk, they didn't make themselves heard. They were shy. They were kind of insecure about it all. And I feel like a lot of these young people that may have fresh points of view and fresh ideas, they don't actually start talking until it's too late. Until they feel comfortable. Oh, I'm just like them now. I feel comfortable speaking. Whereas I think we really need to help them, like, be confident and, like, you know what, you've got an idea and you think it's a crazy idea. It might just be a really good one. But yeah, we have to listen. You can't be like a boss who just negates people because they have no experience, or dismiss them. And maybe one of their ideas isn't a good idea. That doesn't mean they're an idiot. Right. One idea that's not particularly good, but it's always worth your time to listen to them.
Yeah.
And explain to them why it's a bad idea. According to the idea and have that debate. That thought diversity I think is being stifled by that nation. A few other trends. I don't really believe in the whole. It's going to sound terrible. I don't believe in the diversity phrase right now. Just because you're a woman, or just because you're a religion, or that, doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have different thought diversity. In fact, we're trying to get, women seems to be the one group where we're really pushing to get into cyber, and we're indoctrinating the crap out of them to bring them in. I was hosting a dinner on Monday night at a conference, and I was in a room with, I want to say 19 guys and 19 middle-aged white dudes. There was one woman in there, and she left the room at some point. I found out she went to the organizers, like, it's getting really heated in there. There was not, 19 middle-aged white guys, but not a single one of them could agree with each other as to what was more important, what you should do and what your strategy should be. So we're definitely not all the same.
It's so funny.
because everyone was indoctrinated in their own way. It's like, well, I work, in the cloud space, so cloud is the answer, and I work in this, that's the answer, and
yeah,
people are very open-minded, and I always listen to people that I've yet to meet. There are people who I disagree with, like, strongly, but I'm still going to pick up a slight bit of insight, or even if they're completely wrong, and I know factually that they're completely wrong, I'm learning how to deal with that situation, right? I'm learning that, there are people that see things this way. How do you address that when one pops up?
Yeah.
You can always take something away. I think people really need to be objective and try to, who gives a crap if someone's trying to step on your ego? You got to have that strategic mindset of, you know what, he stomped all over me. He thinks he's better than me, blah, blah, blah. But I've got my strategic goal in mind. He thinks he won and he's the big boss and big man, whatever. But strategically, I just made some progress toward my goal, which has nothing to do with him. So keep that forward thinking going. I think is really important in a management or leadership role.
To your point,
I'm not that technical anymore, so I don't really know what to. Because everyone that's young is entering it kind of at a technical level, I think.
Not necessarily. To your point, you made a couple of really, really great points there. It's funny. I had a conversation with someone recently about the diversity of thought, and I brought up the same. I was like, yeah, I could be talking to I said the exact same thing. Two middle-aged white guys, and one would be saying something completely. It's just like two different worlds, and everyone kind of looks at the surface. Everyone's looking at the surface level, gender level, rate, that kind of thing, and there's so much more. But I think as an organization, as a people, as everything, you just have to be so much more mature in that space. And when I say mature in that space, I mean, like, to your point, understanding, being okay with someone stepping on your ego, being okay with, like, okay, I had this strategic objective. This is what I'm going to get done. And I can look at, two people that look exactly the same on the surface and realize, like, oh, one was homeless and has this whole different perspective, and one grew up in a mansion. Like, there's so many layers to that.
Yeah.
When you talked about the leadership part, and I think that with young people and people as a whole, making them feel anybody entering into any new space, I think, is just going to be nervous and insecure just as a whole, and just making these people feel comfortable. I mean, we did recently, Chris and I were talking about this because we try to promote as many, young people, new people. And when we say young people, we mean early career talent, meaning people that are either transferring into the field from something else. So they could be 40 years old or whatever, but they're just new to security, new to this industry. And, one of the things that I asked them to do is do a little video of yourself, like take a selfie video and say, what makes you awesome? And I gave a bunch of different questions that you could answer to make it, like, easy to do. And you would be surprised at all of these people. Like, I got like 100 and something people that said, yeah, I want to be a part of the challenge. And then I had probably, 5 people that actually did the little selfie video. And so I thought about the apprehension around doing this little video where you have something to say, you went into the industry, you have great experience, even if it's not a ton of experience, but you're just so uncomfortable. So he and I, we were talking about the fact, like, maybe we bring him on the show and do like these little 2-minute Q&As, and maybe that'll make it more comfortable, because when you hear somebody in person, it's one thing to have like a picture and a resume. It's a different ball game to be able to promote yourself and do that 2-minute, 1 minute, 2-minute kind of like elevator speech. But it goes back to making the folks like us who have either the platform or the leadership, flexibility and stuff like that, to make these people comfortable with being able to express their ideas. And yes, some of them will be crazy ideas, and then some of them are going to be awesome. And some of the craziest ideas, as we now know, Amazon, like, who's going to be ordering books from online in 1995?
It's so, I think it's really important. I mean, if I do have to give advice, I'm like, be vocal. Like, just really, really be vocal for all the reasons you just said as well. But so okay, you're new to it. You probably don't have much to add from a technology or a compliance or this or that. But you know what? You're in a situation, you're frustrated with it. Do that. I mean, just talk about that. Talk about, your experience, and do some research of why is this happening? Because you're experiencing a problem, and you should be passionate about that problem because it's holding you back. And maybe you'll write a very, very interesting article about how frustrating it is when you're this motivated, this skilled, blah blah blah, and you're experiencing these completely artificial barriers. And that's something you can write about, and you express yourself, and that gets noticed.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll get you noticed. And then eventually someone like me is going to be like, who's this really passionate person complaining about all this stuff here?
Yeah.
And from their article, I can actually see, they've thought about why is this happening? They've actually done some research as to, because of HR process and perception and this and that. And that shows to me that you can think, and that you're passionate, and that you're motivated. I don't care about your Linux skills or whatever. Like, to me, that's a really, really good starting point. And there are people, I got asked to do that talk a couple weeks ago. I just got to go for another talk yesterday. It was an event yesterday. Another talk tomorrow, another mentorship call on Friday. Like, there are people like us that just really genuinely want to help. It's just like you got to get yourself out there, and you got to get yourself noticed. Use LinkedIn like a maniac. I've been on LinkedIn for as long as I can remember. I mean, my current account, I've had it since 2012, I think. So like 7 years. And I had another account before that. I didn't really use it until late last year, if I'm honest. I think I had like 500 connections. I got 7,500. So I didn't put content out. Once I started doing that, things really, really picked up for me. And now I'm literally, in the span of 6 months, I think I've got like 7 or 8 talks and 20 plus podcasts. You got to put time into it. You got to build up your online presence, your brand. It's really important to get noticed. And who knows, you might just become self-employed. I mean, if you're vocal enough and you got good ideas, people will notice you. You can contract.
Yeah.
Your own business. There are other ways of doing it.
In addition to being vocal, I think you also need to be able to summarize what you're being vocal about, to tailor your message to your audience. Because speaking to the engineers, you want to have one message. Speaking to your manager, you want to have a different message. Speaking to the CEO, you want to have a slightly different message. So you need to be able to summarize what you're passionate about and tailor your message to your audience. And I think that communication skill is something that a lot of people overlook when they're entering the industry.
Yeah. You know what? And I think it's a skill that's missing in the industry, even by the people that are already in there.
Yeah.
It's shocking how, you get told, you start, and then you're told by the security people there, they're blockers, and then this person's really difficult to work with, and this and that. And you just go out and you build those relationships, and within, a week, they're at your desk almost every day saying, hey, smiling, talking.
Right.
There's like, they come to you to report and flag stuff. They're like, why did these people ever think these people were blockers?
Like, be a human. Be a human.
Because like the security police, and that's just a terrible way to go about it. But yeah, that communication, and how many tech people, like, they get to a head of or a CISO position, and they go in front of a boardroom, and then they just rant about tech for 5 minutes, and the board just like, what? And then they get frustrated. So yeah. Communication is huge. I think it is.
It is. Chris Roberts, I mean, I feel like every time I read, like, once every 2 weeks he posts something about communication. Like, it's like the same thing over and over and over again, because it's so important. And I wanted to add all of you Chris's. So Chris Foulon, he is the poster child for getting into the industry and just jumping on LinkedIn and doing exactly what you just said. And he's sitting on podcasts and people are like, wait a minute, you haven't even been in the industry that long. Like I was listening to a podcast that he did that he was the
I didn't even know that.
he was the guest. And they're like, this guy's really impressive and he hasn't been in the industry for that long, but blah, 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 and it's because of being able to put yourself out there, synthesize, talk about the different podcasts. And he and I met because I put up a LinkedIn post, he responded, we connected, and like, here we are a year later during this 1-year anniversary of Breaking Into Cybersecurity. And, any young person or person and as a whole try to break in, to your point, can do exactly that.
If I post a job, I'll get like a bunch of applications. I have some understanding for HR because the resumes you get are absolutely absurd. Like I just had posted like it was basically a security analyst type role. And I got like a maritime security operator, some CCTV camera operators, security guards, bodyguards. Like, come on. I got one from a baker and a couple, from India and California. It's like an entry-level role in the university. So there is that. But if I do get a resume in front of me, and this is back to your point, Renee, it's so hard to tell anything from the resume. I mean, for me anyway. I mean, some people are just one of the things I like to do is build roles around people. I've got like a massive laundry list of things I need done. Just, you know what, this person would be great. You can probably do 7 or 8 of those things of those 100 things I need done. It's, number 23, 17, 47, blah, 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 blah. You can do these 7 things and I will craft a role around you and get that done.
And I think candidates can take that direction as well, is that they can scope their own role. They might have been brought in to do number 17, but they could do 22, 43, and 72 as well.
Yeah, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. I'm actually reminded about that. There's so many people in security. Actually, I'll do it now. There's so many people in security who they say, "Oh, we can't do that. We can't affect change because it's the org structure or this or that." It's like, influence does not limit itself to your org structure. I mean, there's cases where one of the senior executives at Frito-Lay was a janitor. And he just managed to talk to the CEO one day and give him an idea, and it was one of the best-selling products. It's that you can go and talk to someone who's not in your department, who doesn't report to, short of the COO, you've got no common reporting structure whatsoever, and build influence and help each other out and just have human.
Yep.
It's like merging into traffic. You got a complete stranger, you could be a dick and just try to cut each other off. Or you can just wave them through and they're like, "Oh, surprise, oh, thank you," and they get in. And then when you need to merge back in front of them 200 yards later, they're more than happy to let you back in.
Yeah.
And it's a very simple analogy.
So true.
Greg,
when I do get a resume, it's so hard to understand anything from the resume, to be honest. It's just words.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
First thing I do is I punch in their name on LinkedIn, and like, if you have a profile, you're already far more likely. If your profile is good, I will put far more weight on your LinkedIn profile and see, because it's interesting to see how I can see your posts and I can see your activity and how you've responded to things and how you've engaged people and in articles that you've written and stuff content that you've posted or videos that you've made. That tells me so much more about you than your resume. So it's really, really important. I don't even maintain a resume anymore. It's just
nobody does.
Yeah.
No executives that I'm dealing with have resumes. They're like, go to my LinkedIn profile. Like, why?
Yeah.
You could just Google a person's name.
And everything is there. You got my picture. You can see my activity.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's interactive. It gives so much more depth and perspective.
Wow, time really flies, Greg. I was going to ask you, we wanted to ask you one more question.
We got to bring you back. This is too good.
I know. Usually we only go for a half hour. We're already like approaching 45 minutes. So if you had to give one piece of sage advice, just one, to someone coming into the industry, what would it be?
Be hungry. Be really, really hungry, because no matter what you face, if you're hungry enough, you'll get through it. But you gotta have that hunger, and you gotta be willing to take a step back and see what the problem is when you do hit a wall. And sometimes it's you, and that's what you gotta work on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do. Go watch some Les Brown videos to motivate the crap out of yourself if you need.
Love Les Brown.
That's how much I hate cleaning. But
thank you so much, Greg. This has been awesome. We have to bring you back. Thank you again, Chris. Thanks for setting this one up.
Thank you.
We will get another Breaking Into Cyber special edition coming soon, because this has been fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Greg.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys. Take care.